So, Ritesh, good to see you again. Could you introduce yourself to
Hey.
the business?
Yeah, no, cool. Yeah, so hey, I'm Ritesh, the founder of 10 Acre Property Investment. 10 Acre is actually a pretty simple business. It's 10 Acre is here to help busy individuals, so that could be business owners or professionals who work a lot of hours in their day to day, who want to invest in property in the UK but don't have the time, don't have the relationships, the know-how, and the inclination to go and find another 20, 30 hours a week to try and learn it. And so what 10 Acre is here to do is make this possible for these busy individuals by providing a sort of pretty 360-degree service, like a turnkey operation, where it's from sourcing property directly through developers in strategically chosen areas based with all the due diligence.
Mhm.
We manage the whole process from mortgages to solicitors, providing accountants to set up company structures if needed, and guidance on that side, through to the lettings and management side, where we will then help with renting the property out and fully managing it on a day-to-day basis.
Mm.
So it's the ideal solution for someone who's time poor but wants to start investing in property, doesn't want to make costly mistakes, wants a trusted partner, I would
Mm.
say, is the main thing here, who will basically take them through and hold their hand through the whole process.
Okay, nice. Yeah, and I feel like most people know that they should be investing in property, but they just uh, don't have the time, don't ha have the time to have the expertise. They worry about doing it wrong. Is that where most people get stuck?
Yeah, I think it's a case actually where you're right. Busy people, they know they need to do something because regardless of your income today, in 5, 10, 15, 20 years time, at some point when you decide to take a backseat step back, take some of your time back,
Mm.
the income will drop off. But then how do you keep maintaining a good lifestyle? Most people's pensions are not going to do the job. If we're going to sit here relying on pensions, we're all pretty stuffed. So I think most people know that. So investments come in. And you've got stocks and shares, you can invest in startups and there's a number of things out there which are quite exciting but can be volatile and require what I think is hands-on experience. You've got to really know it.
Mm.
What property does for me is it gives people a more passive way of investing where it's not as exciting as the stock market always, where it's shooting up by 10%, 20%, but it's not going to fly down by 10, 20% either. It's a tangible asset which if you buy it and hold it over the long term, then you know that you're well placed and you're not going to have too many sleepless nights.
Yeah, fine. Okay. No, I like it. So how did you get to this stage? What's your background with property or investments? How does that look?
Yeah, so to be fair, I've been in this space now personally for over 15 years,
Okay.
working, one to one with, working for a company, working, very closely one to one with individual investors, both who live in the UK but globally. So
Mm.
also people who live in other countries outside of the UK but want to invest in the UK because UK is a popular market when it comes to property investment.
Mm.
So I've been doing that for over a decade. I've also been building and working closely with a lot of the developers in the UK, from the big national FTSE 100 ones down to the more mid-sized ones. So it's a wide range. And through those years, I've built up a lot of relationships, with developers. Learned a lot, often through mistakes, because this, if there's one good thing that comes out of a mistake, is you bloody learn. And the key to it is, for me, is to share those learnings, both my personal mistakes, but things that have happened with clients sometimes, and to
Okay.
make sure that future clients can benefit from that knowledge and it doesn't sort of happen to them. Look, it's investment. There's some things which you can't avoid. And I'm a believer in making sure there's a lot of transparency and clients understand all the risk, everything that can happen.
Yeah.
So they go into it with their eyes open. But I think it's important to know.
Yeah.
And so where 10 Acre came from is, after working for a business for a certain amount of time, you get to a stage where you want more. Where do I go from here?
Yeah.
Then it was a case of me thinking, well, where can I offer value to
Mm.
people? Of course, look, let's not make any mistakes. We all want to make money. Every business wants to make money. Everyone wants to make money. But for me, the best way to make money is by adding value to someone else's life and helping them Because if you genuinely add value, the money side just comes.
Yeah. Okay. No, I like it. I like it. So I think one thing that you touched on there is the failures. So the learning from the failures, and I think you're a big believer in that being the only way to really be an expert in this investment game. So is that the reason that a lot of people will come to you is because you've gone through a loads of failures before in the past? So people now coming with their to make their first investment, they're leveraging off of all of your expertise.
Yeah, 100% is one of the main reasons where, look, we all want people we can trust,
Mm,
and if you're going to make an investment in property, it's arguably going to be some of the largest sums of money that you're going to part with.
yeah.
Yeah. So forget about the deal, there's always a good deal, around the corner. For me, it's not about that. People who are genuinely looking to build wealth, what I call the real investors, want to do it for real life things.
Yeah.
They're looking for someone they can trust, someone who can show them the path, but not just how great things can be, but someone who can say, well, right, look, these are the risks here,
Mm,
but I can also show them how we're going to mitigate them.
yeah.
Not take them away totally, because that doesn't exist in investment. There's always going to be some risk. But if you've been doing it for a long period of time and been through these different cycles and stuff, fallen over a couple of times, then okay, the do's and the don'ts. And for me, just sharing those means that I can give my clients the maximum chance of success.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. I like it. So I've been in I was an estate agent before. I don't know if I ever shared this, but I dealt with quite a few first time investors before
Yeah,
and when selling properties. One of the biggest mistakes that I saw was people investing with emotion, so that they're buying properties that they like,
yeah,
that they would live in. And I see both sides of the coin with that, because you can say, oh, well, if it's something that I would live in, then it's probably going to rent out a bit easier. But what's your stance on the emotional buy from investors?
yeah. Nah, so it's one of the things I teach my clients very early doors: get rid of the emotion.
Okay.
Yeah, it's difficult to, and in your first one, you will have a lot of it.
Mm.
And a big part of my role is helping clients to emotionally go through this process and to start thinking more like an investor. For example, if you're going to buy somewhere where you're going to live, it's a totally different hat, because my bigger interest is, oh, is the living room like this? And, can I see this out of my window? Or, all those sort of nice things that you look for when you're going to live somewhere, which is fine. When I'm looking at this from an investment perspective, which is what we're about, I put on a different hat. Of course, I'm looking at the numbers. Massively. They're really important. But there are the fundamentals outside of the numbers as well. Sometimes, people often just go straight into the numbers, and think, oh, these look really good. And I call some of these investments um, on paper investments where the numbers look so great, but actually you're not going to realize those numbers. So for me, what's more important is to strip that emotion, but yes, numbers, but then focus on the fundamentals
Mm.
of the investment. There's a bit of an overlap, I suppose, with the stock market and property here. They say if you're going to invest in stock, don't just keep chasing, oh, this is priced low, this is priced high, in and out. The actual real investors, they invest into the fundamentals of the company because they believe this product, this company, I think AI is a big thing right now, so everyone's like, if you feel that this model here is this business is going to take off because I like the fundamentals of what it's being built on and what it's going to deliver, who's behind it, and property is no different. I look at property as like, let me see the fundamentals of this area. Can I see there's a transport network close by? We operate massively in what we call the regeneration sector. So that's like buying properties in areas which might and probably are not where me or you want to live today necessarily, but we do the research of how much money is being injected into the area by either a big developer, government, businesses, transport connections coming out, all these sort of things. And I buy into that because those are the areas that I've seen through my 15 plus years create the biggest uplift. So I
Mm.
wouldn't have lived in some of these areas when I invested in them.
Yeah.
But when I look at them 10 years later, I'm like 100% I would live in them. And I can sort of reel off example after example, what
Yeah.
this one is. So yeah, it is about stripping that emotion away up to a certain degree, working on it. And it won't come straight away, but it will happen through education, which is a big part of my role.
Yeah, fine. Okay, no, that makes sense. So it's similar to those like when people are talking about crypto or stuff like that. If people are talking about a certain area, if everyone's talking about investing in a certain area, it's probably too late. So you you're trying to find those areas before everyone's talking about them, and okay,
Correct, yes.
okay. No, I like that. So, how does your monetization route look? How do you monetize the different stages? Because I'm imagining that you can pull money from lots of different avenues in what you do.
Yeah. So the monetization for the business comes from a few areas. So you've got the main side of it is the property sales of a property. When we sell a property, we make money.
Yeah.
How we make our money depends on the structure of the deal. There could be payments solely from the developer. There
Mhm.
could be payments sometimes from the investor if we manage to get something unique, exclusive, which only can be got through us effectively. But that's where the main money for the business comes. Then you've got the other side of it, which is the lettings and management. So letting the property out, fully managing it, and growing that portfolio creates a more month to month cash flow. But you have got to build that up over time.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay.
Makes sense, sir?
Yeah, fine. So, and then will you also plug on things like referrals to like solicitors, mortgage brokers? Is that a monetization route as well for you, or have you
Well,
started partial?
with solicitors, no.
Okay.
Solicitors, no. With mortgage brokers, sometimes some brokers do offer, incentivize us if we recommend a client to them.
Mm.
But what's more important to us is actually matching up the right client with the best brokers, because the reality is, again, not going to hide behind the fact that, yes, I want to make as much money as I can in this business, but at the end of the day, you're going to make more money by pairing up clients with the right people, because that will sort of send repeat business back to you again and again, versus trying to make yourself a small referral fee from
Yeah.
an average broker who doesn't perform.
Yeah, fine. Okay, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I know, I think a lot of people in the property space probably see every person as something to squeeze as much out of,
Yeah.
which means that they're not creating those long-term relationships. So I see why you do it that way.
There are other things on it, like, for example, we sell furniture packs. So once the property is completed, so we that's another sort
Yeah,
of monetization. And for me, all those mortgage broker fees, furniture packs, that's all great. They're little add-ons, but
yeah,
it's not the core of where the business makes its money. For me, the core where the business makes its money is selling high quality property to
yeah,
investors who will come back again and again,
yeah.
and that's where we make the real money.
Yeah, fine. And it sounds like the furnishing packs and stuff like that is more to make your client's life easier instead of the money maker.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you could be, we have clients, for example, who are in the Middle East or in Asia, and a lot of these guys haven't even seen the property physically that they've invested in.
Okay.
Sounds crazy, but that's where you get to once you start doing this. And because we deal with the new build side of the market, getting involved at off-plan properties, you don't need to worry about is the kitchen crumbling or not, because everything's brand new. So it enables and empowers investors,
Mm.
to be able to make those decisions sitting where they are. So then getting things like furniture packs organized for them is fantastic, because they don't really want to spend £1,000 flying over to the UK to do that.
Yeah, fine. No, that makes sense. Okay. So how do you go about finding more investors, people that want to invest?
Yeah. So look, we're fortunate enough to have a lot of existing clients built up, who will, as and when they can, will look to reinvest again. Uh, we have a good referral network
Okay.
where they will refer friends, family, business colleagues. We have partnerships with people in countries outside of the UK, like the Middle East, for example, Kuwait being one of them, where we've got a quite a big good referral network there, because the culture is very much one of people like to buy with people who they trust. So someone telling you these guys are good, they've invested with them, it works, that helps. And it is the best lead. A referral lead is the best lead. Let's be honest, you're not paying for that lead. And the biggest hurdle, I suppose, to get someone to work with you initially is that trust hurdle. And if someone who you know very well that you trust tells you, I've used these guys, use them, you're getting over that hurdle straight away. So from a money perspective, the best cost cost in terms of zero for the lead, and the initial trust side already there.
Mm.
So that's one big avenue. We do PPC
Okay.
stuff out there. SEO is a longer term strategy, so we're still working on that. But that hopefully over the next 6 to 12 months should start delivering leads for us at a higher volume and obviously cost effective.
Yeah.
Social media, yes, we have got social media pages, but from my experiences with social media, it's not a great source for us.
Mm.
Um, Purely because, look, I think with e-commerce products, something where you can just go bang bang and transact online, it would work pretty well. When you're talking about big ticket items, I'm not saying it can't work, but I think we've got to look at the strategy that we've got to use. Up to now, the leads that we've generated or that I've worked on that have come from social media, and I'm talking of over 1,000 leads. I'm not talking of just a small making a judgment on a small group.
Yeah.
We've generally found that the intent level is actually very, very low. Not saying those clients won't ever do anything, but they're so early in the cycle,
Mm.
so early that there's a lot of knowledge and education beyond just a conversation with me or my team, that needs to happen before they can get anywhere close, and if they're going to get close. So the time cost comes into it as well. We put 10, 15 hours worth of time into clients in terms of meetings, taking them through projects, answering questions without earning a penny. And I don't mind doing that,
Yeah.
right? Because if you're working with the right people, then eventually, the investment will happen, the sale will happen. So we don't mind doing that, no problem at all. But if someone's so far away that they require so much time, it
Yeah.
just doesn't work.
Yeah, fine. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, I think on the social media side, what I've seen for businesses with similar setups for you is it's um you kind of you want people to not be able to come straight into the funnel off of social
Yeah,
media, and you want them to just be part of a nurturing
yeah,
program instead of they can see your stuff on Instagram or LinkedIn or anything like
yeah,
that and then go straight to you. You want them to actually have to add a few more friction steps in,
yeah,
so then you're funneling down to the people that you actually want,
yeah,
because otherwise that yeah you can become very busy with
yeah.
wrong sort of things. So okay. Lots of people want referral partners and strong networks to get leads. Do you have a process around how to build out referral partnerships? How do you approach it?
To be fair, we haven't got a very complex process or anything. It's just simply the question,
Okay, yeah,
ask the question, give a reward if something comes from it. We all like, and it's not necessarily someone's going to do it just for the reward, but I feel it's nice to reward people who are referring clients to your business as well. So that works pretty well. There are things in the background we're working on and looking at of how we can increase that. I mean, we can build referral partners in other countries in terms of doing JVs with sort of agents on the ground there.
yeah,
But then we're going to look at the numbers of how they sort of look in terms of and the loss of control in the sense of certain projects we get are exclusive. They're not to be marketed out everywhere. They have to be kept a little bit. The cards have to be kept closer to the chest, as they say. But if the referral partner you're working with doesn't adhere to that, you could lose relationships with the developer. So there's a number of things which we would like to do, I suppose, to grow that, but we've got to be very careful of how we do that. So right now, back to your question is it's a very simple way. We just ask the question. Sometimes there were people who haven't even asked the question, but they've come back to us and said, "Hey, my mate's interested in this, and please help them." So yeah,
nice. Okay, yeah. I think most people don't ask.
yeah,
They will just try and deliver a great service, which it sounds like you guys are doing, but it's then they don't take it that next step and say, actually, well, you've just had all of this great experience with us. Do you know anyone else that wants the same experience? And they don't do that. And I think they also maybe get the timing wrong of asking for the referrals,
yeah,
or asking if people want to do more, like getting the most out of each person as well. So you're unlikely to get someone to invest again straight after they've just done an investment, but you might be able to get them to invest twice at the start of, like, to go for two properties instead of one whilst
Yeah.
they're going through the process. So I think it's probably your experience help with that in knowing that being in the right networks and asking people for the business makes a big difference.
Yeah, 100%. I think events help as well. So in the past, we've done stuff like in Bahrain, we had a whole group of expats
Okay.
working for British Aerospace in Bahrain. We held an event exclusively for those guys because expats is a very good market for us,
Mm,
where they not living here, working somewhere else, earn pretty good money, often in low to zero tax environments.
yeah.
But UK is still home, so to have building something up here,
Mm,
is still something on their mind for their future, for their kids, all those sort of things. So that's a great market for us, and it's someone, for me, sometimes you look at someone and you think, well, this client here doesn't really need our services. If
mm,
someone's got the time, they've got the relationship, they can do it themselves, I'm pretty quick to say, hey, why do you want to work with us?
yeah.
Like, you don't need us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas those clients, they absolutely need us, because they're not here first of all anyway. So they need that hand holding process, everything done, the unearth the areas, tell me who the right developers are. And also we save time for them because I'm not going to, unlike maybe an estate agency model, sorry, where you might just get hit with a whole load of properties and, sort of say, okay, pick whichever one you like. We're more about having that one-on-one interaction with them to find out what their situation is, what their goals are, and then educating them a little bit about the areas, then going away and picking 2 to 3 top options that
Mm,
these are my recommendations for you. You don't need to spend 10 hours, 15 hours churning through the internet listings or any of that. Here's everything you need on a plate. These are my views on it. What are your questions? And people really value that. And
yeah.
expats really value that.
Yeah, yeah, no, I can see that. Yeah, and I think having the honest conversation with people that don't need the help, or they if they've got too much time on their hands anyway, it might be something for them to do. So yeah, fine, that makes sense. Do you find ever any bottlenecks around finding enough properties to invest in? Is that ever a bottleneck?
So thank God, touch wood, no.
Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't have, I mean, there's been periods over the last 15 odd years where I could take it, it was a bit slow there, but I played a big role in changing the whole model of the business that we work for in terms of spreading the net out and stopping those things that were limiting the accessibility side without going into too much detail. There were certain things about the business model which meant there was only a limited amount of projects we could work with, but we sort of broke that to be able to scale. Um, so now there's always opportunity, and that's why I'm not one to ever sell or tell my team to sell on scarcity. I like to give my clients a little bit more respect into their intelligence of this is the last one.
Yeah.
I'm more about there's abundance.
Mm,
Of course, if you're someone who is picky on the unit, where you want something very specific, higher floors, great views, or your numbers are really tight, where you can only really invest in a few of these units, then your price point breaks. Then it's for you to make that decision quicker.
yeah. Yeah.
That's it. Nothing else from mine. If the whole project goes, fine, we'll find the next one. There'll
Yeah.
be another one. That's
Mm.
that's my approach.
Yeah, and I think that probably comes from you not having because you have that abundance of deals, you have a good lead flow, everything like that. So you're not you don't have the what we'd call in an estate agency the commission breath, because
Yeah,
you're just trying to force the deals down people's throat because you need the money,
yeah,
which I think massively helps.
yeah. No, no, absolutely.
So what does the next year or 6 months look like for you then, Ritesh? What's the plans? What's the goals?
So we want to increase our lead flow for 10 acre.
Mhm.
Our approach to the sort of how we've been dealing with 10 acre is doing a little bit, investing in more into it, doing a little bit, investing more, whilst we sort of emotionally as business owners get comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, it's about increasing that lead flow. We're still trialing, testing different channels, A/B testing on different marketing approach, stuff like that, to sort of find the sweet spot between the spend, the return on investment to what we spend to what we get out of it.
Yeah,
It's never linear, that's the thing in our industry. And like, it probably isn't in most, where just if I find one good lead source, that works quite well, just doubling my spend doesn't mean I'm going to double my sales. Yeah, it's in fact, it'll probably half my sales. Something like that. It's just been around long enough in the industry to know how it works. So just trying to fine tune those different channels, increase the quality of the ads and stuff like that as well. The easy route, anyone can say is, yeah, I just want to increase my spend. I mean, you don't have to be a genius to do that. That's not necessarily smart. The smart thing to do.
sorry to interrupt. I know it's annoying. I will let you get back to the podcast in a second. It's not an ad. I just wanted to let you know that I have taken our sales assessment process, step-by-step guide of how to assess salespeople and put it into a PDF for you, as we're talking about salespeople and strengths and weaknesses and what works and doesn't work. So I thought I would put it into a guide so you can assess your sales function and work out how they're performing and where to focus your improvements on. So first link in the description, enter your email. We'll send you the guide straight away. Doesn't cost anything, completely free. But let me know what you thought. I'll let you get back to the podcast now.
So yeah, it is basically working through those different tests we're doing on the different channels, and then sort of scaling sensibly through those channels to make sure that we're still growing organically, step at a time, and not just going all in on one thing and it not working.
Yeah, fine. Yeah, yeah. I think that testing approach is the only way to move forwards really in new strategies or improving strategies. Like lots of people will get stuck and say, actually, I'm going to research all
Yeah,
about this strategy and then take 6 months out to become a master in it, and they roll it out and it doesn't work, and then they're back to square one.
yeah,
That does make it challenging, but it'll be interesting to keep we'll catch up maybe in 6 or 12 months time and see how your testing's gone, what strategies have worked, what hasn't worked the way you thought it would, and which ones are winners. So definitely keen to
yeah.
catch up again and do another session. But yeah, thanks for that, Ritesh. Where should people go to find you? I'll put your links in the description, but on LinkedIn, should they reach out to the website? What's the best place?
There's a number of places. I mean, you can go onto the website and sign up on and book a call with one of the team, www.10acre.co.uk. You can also directly send us an email if you want to sort of just get straight into the conversation and ask any, I'm a believer in ask any question you want. No questions too small. So feel free to email me directly, Ritesh at 10acre.co.uk.
Yeah.
So yeah, any website, personally, email, whatever works, that's fine. And happy to answer any questions that anyone's got on the market, property, what we do, whatever.
Cool. Perfect. Well, thanks for that, Ritesh. Yeah, that's the pod.
Cool.